we'll start this meeting of the Sheffield Selectboard tonight. Welcome everybody. It's good to see everyone. And welcome CTSB. Thank you for all you do. We'll start with approval of meeting minutes.
I would make a motion to approve two sets of minutes, 8:29 and 9:05 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second thing on the agenda is a public hearing, but I do not see
Do you want to
Eric
flip
here.
flop them around?
We can do that. We can go to, and there he is. Isn't Eric? Oh, there he was. I had my glasses off, sorry. So if we would start with the public hearing that we were going to have at 7:10, the hearing for National Grid pole installation on Cooper Hill Road. Is that you?
Yes.
Would you like to step to the podium and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Taggart. I'm the engineer with National Grid. And I'm here present for the pole petition for Cooper Hill Road. Can just give a brief description. So what we propose to do is install 6 solely owned poles by National Grid. This is for system improvement for installing a pole line for in terms of a storm was to occur. This would be increased reliability for like an outage of customers, and installing a pole line would allow us to refeed customers if the side streets were to, with those customers were out.
Okay, so this basically just fills the gap between the two incoming lines, one from Silver Street down and
Yes, wherever that is.
up.
Yes.
Just that gap in the middle,
Yes.
and this will,
Filling the gap just allows us, yes, so it just allows us to refeed that street from another side, wherever there's an outage at during a storm.
excellent.
If anybody has questions, I'm here to answer.
I think, is there anything particular about an SO pole different?
I kind of just got went the door. You said
What is an SO pole?
solely owned by National Grid. So there's
Solely owned.
Solely owned, okay.
yes, we have jointly
Okay,
owned
great,
and so
that's fine.
yeah.
Got
Thank
it.
you for clarifying
Yes, we
that.
were talking about that at the last meeting as to whether it was a special type of pole, but it really just refers to the ownership.
Yep. Until Verizon or Communication decides to buy into our
Right.
poles and put their wires on there. In the meantime, it'll be solely owned.
So as Bob was saying, this is now going to fill that gap. Will the electricity come one way or the other, or have the option of going either?
We have the option to refeed either direction.
Okay.
Whenever there's a fuse that blows from a tree branch, we're able to just fill in this gap of running primary down the road from the poles holding the wires up. We're able to close in a fuse from either end. And
So it's a redundancy for that whole area, in some ways.
yeah, there's a reason for us wanting to put poles on.
I have no other questions. I would make a motion to close this public hearing.
Second?
Did we see if there's public comment?
Except, do you want to see if there's any public? I'm sorry, it's a little early. Yeah.
Echo.
Is there any public interest in this matter of the poles on Cooper Hill Road? Seeing we have no questions, all those in favor of closing the hearing? Aye.
I'll make a motion that we approve the petition for National Grid to install the 6 solely owned poles on Cooper Hill Road.
I would second that with the proviso that if anybody comes in late at 7:10, that we do listen to them if they have any comments. Okay?
Correct. That would be fair.
Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
We stay a few minutes after until 7:10 to see if any stragglers come in. I'll wait.
We probably can explain it to them,
Okay.
now that we know what SO stands for.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Guys, have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
Are we expecting someone on this?
dropped something off today and didn't say whether he was coming or not. I just decided to go.
So you'd like to go on with this one? Okay, so we'll start our public hearing from Carlson Heating and Air Conditioning regarding a fuel tank installation on, that would be East Pike Road.
Are you going to read that for the public?
I could do that if you think it's advisable.
Yeah.
So they are requesting the license to store a 500-gallon tank of gasoline in a newly double-walled, above-ground container engineered for the storage of flammable fuels. Installation shall meet all local state codes. Container will be located at 209 Pike Road. Signed by Eric Carlson.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
So there's also a second one for diesel.
Where is that? It's not in this paper.
I'm sorry, okay, so it's requesting a license to store 1,000 gallons of diesel in a new above-ground container engineered for the storage of flammable fuels. Installation shall meet all local state codes. Container will be located at 209 Pike Road.
So do we have two applications?
Yes.
Okay, so we just did, we got
Just
one
did.
and you got the master on the other. Right. I do know that, in my experience with Carlson Heating and Air Conditioning, they've been here multiple times for the board, before the board, requesting similar items. And we've had no issue that I'm aware of. I've never heard of an issue. They do things the way they need to be done. So I would make a motion to approve both of these applications for permits, the 1,000 gallon for diesel and the 500 gallon for gasoline, as requested.
I'll second that as long as you want to make sure the public doesn't have any comments on it.
Any comments or questions from the public on these two fuel storage tanks? Seeing not, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, discussion, possible action regarding Village Green sidewalk bid. Now, my understanding is we still have some issues with getting permission.
Well, this is the bid, and then there's the logistics.
Right.
You want to do the bid first and then the logistics?
I'd like to pass that to Rhonda, do you think?
So I think that you should talk about the logistics first, and then your motion can reflect how you want to move forward with that. So we do have easements for most of the properties in the Village Green. I think there's one or two that we would still need to get. However, town council thought, excuse me, that we could go ahead with the easements the way they were worded from when they originally put the sidewalks in the Village Green. But he wanted us to make sure that Complete Streets would accept the easements that we had and possibly use a form called the right of entry, I believe it's called. And we still do not have an answer back from the state.
They have had it for over a week, and when I sent them on Friday, it was, oh, we kind of forgot about this. I think there is the issue of the properties that we don't have the easements for, all right? Rhonda, I don't know if you want to go through the process of how we would get those easements?
To get an easement, you have to go to town meeting. So that it would kind of be almost impossible to do that for this project because the funds have to be spent, or everything has to be turned in by the end of December. So that would mean we would want the work done by December 1st. And I think we're bumping up against making that impossible.
So most of this would come down to whether DOT will accept
Yes.
the easements we have.
Yes.
We'll still be missing some easements, and I mean, I think, kind of the way I kind of looked at this is about a couple of ideas. One is, I don't know how long this bid is good for. I don't know how many days how valid it is for. I do know that I have been told that people will pour concrete in just about any weather. They mix the concrete to fit the weather conditions. We do have at least one special town meeting come up. I don't want to interfere with that one, but we could do one in the area of, if we needed, we may have some things for bylaws and things of that sort. And then I can, just kind of use a few things, like they changed all the rules midway. And we still got that 86,000 we're still waiting to hear. That's been wrapped up in discussion for months now, I think. And I could potentially work out a letter that might allow them to extend a little bit into next year. The other thing, if worse comes to worse, we lose the rest of the grant and we start again.
Well, I'll make a motion that we select the bid from Caracas Construction for $174,537,000, subject to the easements being approved by DOT, because we don't want to end up in a situation where we have a shortfall and the town has to pick it up.
I'll second that motion. It would be a situation where I don't think the town would start any of the construction without any of the easements in place, because the easements that are missing are, you'd have a certain amount done, and it would be better in my mind to beg for another extension, which I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, and I think that us approving, selecting the bid and moving that, at least that piece forward, would keep the train on the track, moving in the right direction, even if it was the spring of 2024.
And if we have to, we let this go and we apply again. I just don't think we want to do anything that's going to endanger the money. I think we're all in agreement. So I've seconded Nadine's motion.
Any further discussion? All right, those in favor? Aye.
Rhonda, if you have any ability to let me know in the next week or so how long this bid is good for, thank you.
Okay, discussion, possible action regarding purchase of property on Ewan Street.
So Rhonda and I met with a gentleman last week regarding his willingness to sell us a 4-acre parcel on Hewen Street for $225,000. We would be taking on the burden of clearing whatever's on the property at that price. And so it would be my recommendation that we enter into a purchase and sales agreement for that property for the potential highway garage location, in that it, I think, will be ultimately less expensive in site preparation and ease of use for us.
I would second that. Now, that also would require a town meeting vote, so we now have 2 items. Okay, and
in our discussion, I asked him if he would have the willingness to wait until May. Was he in a hurry? He indicated that sooner would be better for him, but that if it was necessary to wait until our town meeting in May, he would.
I'm not willing to wait that long.
I just wanted you to know that he was being cooperative.
Yes, I think that's extremely good. I think we should move on this with all diligence, and if there's a purchase and sale that's agreeable, etc., I think we should go to town meeting on this. I mean, this garage thing.
So I'll make a motion that we go ahead and enter into a purchase and sales agreement for that property for the price of $225,000.
Subject to town meeting approval.
Subject to town meeting.
Second that.
Any further discussion? I guess the only thing I would like to add is this was being considered because the site that we had previous, that we owned, has more complications, and the cost of site preparation has come back to us much higher than I had anticipated, or anybody, I think, on the board. So this is another option that should be less expensive overall. So that's why we are looking into it.
I personally think a lot of people will be pleased if we can find another site. I think there has been concern about the ecological sensitivity of that site. We've been working with that ever since we started on it, but I would love to see something finalized on the highway garages with people who have spent their life on this.
Yep, I'm with you on that, Renee.
So, all those in favor of...
You do have a question?
Oh, I do,
You wanna
sorry.
raise
I'm
it?
not sure if you mentioned the express.
No, and we're not going to. We don't want anyone to go buy it out from under us.
Oh, fair enough. I was
Yes.
curious the placement of it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We wouldn't bring something to the town if we didn't think it was appropriate, but we don't want it bought out from under us.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Take those back off. Okay, ratify a vote taken on 8/29/23, meeting to authorize a building assessment for the library. This was a discussion at our annual retreat, and we just wanted to ratify the vote in open session where people are here, so.
I'd make a motion that we ratify the vote that we took on 8/29/23 to authorize a building assessment for the library, the purpose of which is to assess what the condition of the building is. And this fits in with our capital planning.
Yep. I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Questions? I see Pat was a little...
Yeah, I didn't understand what it was about, so thank you.
Basically, just to understand the condition of the building, what the future needs of the building, the structure, the
Maintenance.
foundation, general upkeep.
So that includes the systems, not just the physical structure?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
That hasn't been done, I don't think, since the building was repurposed, which was, I think, in the late 1990s.
95.
I think it was,
95, I think, yeah.
when everybody did a shift.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job.
Okay, second ratification on a vote taken same day, 8/29/23, meeting to purchase 2 licenses for the electronic records program.
I would make a motion that we ratify the vote taken on 8/29, which is basically to purchase 2 software licenses for the electronic records management program. And just way of background, all of that has been scanned. Those are, as you know, we're under a program we received a grant on to digitize the town records. So now this vote, if approved, would allow us to have 2 licenses to go in and search the documents that we have digitized.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I should make note that those licenses are covered under the grant.
Okay, discussion, possible action regarding letter of H3852 regarding public utilities.
So I drafted a letter for the board's consideration. This all has to do with municipal aggregation, which, Rhonda, I probably, you should give the explanation. Okay.
I would let both of them because it is quite in-depth.
I know I wrote the letter, but every so often, and I don't truly remember how many years it is, municipalities are given the opportunity to come together and do what they call a municipal aggregation. We did that a number of months ago. The board has ratified this, and it just keeps coming back. What it was able to do is give those who had not opted out to the 9.7 kilowatt cost this last winter when it was considerably higher on the open market. So we have entered in with a number of our Southern Berkshire partners into another municipal aggregation agreement that I believe will start this fall.
Yes.
Okay, so in the meantime, what's been going on, and there's going to be 3 items on this agenda. Apparently, the Department of Public Utilities wants to get more involved. And right now, this is going to be a real condensation. If you want more information, we can give it to you. But they have to approve all of these municipal aggregation agreements. What the DPU apparently wants to do is get a little bit more involved and approve amendments, which might deal with how many letters are sent out to the customers to inform them of it, because this is everybody's opted in, and then you have to opt out, and then you can opt back in, but they want to get involved in things like sending letters, how many notices, how those are taken care of, what I would consider administrative minutia that they don't need to be involved in, because every time something of that administrative minutia changes, back the agreement goes for DPU review, and we start all over again. So to bring this to the current letter, there's a couple of things going on. There is this H 3852. It's an act supporting electrical load aggregation programs in the Commonwealth. It is before the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy. So both the House and the Senate will take it up at once. Basically, the author of this is trying to simplify it and keep DPU out of that minutia, all right? And this is the draft letter rewritten to have a little, nobody wants to have the same draft letter they send out. Nobody reads it. I put kind of a Sheffield touch into this and shrunk it down and tried to make it a little bit more fun to read.
Fun to read.
I don't know about fun, but a lot more digestible.
Some poor staff,
More palatable, shall we say.
some poor staff member has to read all of this stuff. But the basic thing is that the town of Sheffield is committed to helping our residents access affordable electricity. And we are writing this, there's going to be a hearing later on, I think it's next week, on this bill, and that we're writing to voice our support and a request that they move this along in a timely fashion, and then the rest is just blah, blah, blah.
I'll make a motion, we sign the letter as presented.
I will second that. It's well written, I do believe, just the right amount of push and shove.
One page, front and back is good.
Yes.
And we're copying our senator and our rep on this. Since I'm going to be out of town, Rhonda, you can sign for me, please?
I will.
Because I don't want this to get held up, and
Okay.
we can also email it. So I would second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion, possible action regarding comments to the Department of Public Utilities.
Okay,
Similar.
You want me to go in this one too?
Yes, go ahead.
So this is part
Don't wait.
2. This is much longer, and to be honest, this is a little bit later in the game. These are supposed to be in, I think, by October 6th.
Yes.
So I just haven't taken the time and gone through it, but I will. And I would respectfully make a recommendation that the board have confidence in our town administrator and myself, and let us sort this out and write a letter on behalf of the board.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
And I will second it.
Great.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Cheaper electricity for all.
My goal is to keep the DPU out of where they don't belong.
I appreciate that.
And I see this, and most people know I'm a very strong town rights person, and the DPU is getting where they don't belong.
Kind of like the CCC.
Yes.
Yeah, and every time they get involved, then it's more bureaucracy, and it slows us from getting done what we've done, and they have to approve the agreement anyway. They don't have to get into the minutia.
Okay, Discussion possible action for process of appointment of library trustee. Rhonda, would you like
So
to
one of
take
our
this one?
elected trustees has resigned, so it's a 3-member board, and it's now down to 2. So in order to fill that slot, the remaining trustees and the select board may appoint someone to fulfill that term, not the term, but just until the next election. So it would be from now until the election in May.
So we need people to submit letters of interest
Yeah.
so that the library trustees and the Board of Selectmen can meet and appoint someone to that board. It's a good opportunity for someone to try it out before they run for election, is always how I feel when we have the opportunity to fill a spot. It means you get to step in for a couple of months, try on the shoes, see if they fit, and if not, you don't have to run in the spring. So please submit your letters to the Board of Selectmen, and we will be glad to move forward on that.
Pat?
Can we put a date on that by which? so
I was
that-
just going to ask that question, do we have a time frame to get this completed by? I mean, we have to get a letter, at least one. So maybe by the first meeting in October, would hope to have a letter.
As soon as we have one, we can move on
I mean,
it.
it's not like we're
Does the
going to...
library have anybody that has shown interest at this
Yeah.
point? So we do have people out there that are interested.
We-
So that-
Do you need letters? They'll get the letters.
Okay.
I think those letters would probably be best copied to Dina and copied to town administrator, since it's a joint process, and maybe we could put that on our first October meeting and try to get it done.
Does that time frame work?
Yeah, whatever the shortest time frame is.
Okay.
So our first meeting is what, October 6th? October,
It's a long start
um,
in October. I think you're right, Nadine.
October 2nd, actually.
Second.
So let's say by September 29th, which would be the day we would have to post, or do we have to post on Thursday? 28th. By September 28th, so that we can post a meeting.
That's 10 days.
Thank you.
I mean, anybody can do a letter in 10 days.
We're hanging in, it's okay.
Okay, do we need a vote or anything on that, or is that's fine? Okay. Here we go. Discussion, possible action for a trunk or treat date. And trunk or treat for the kids here in the parking lot. here.
And then we also, are you planning on opening the building this year?
Yes.
Yes, that's always fun.
So do we have a recommended date?
So we
We
do
do.
Friday, October 27th, with a rain date of Monday, October 30th.
I'll make a motion that we approve Friday, October 27th, with a rain date of October 30th. Or trunk or treat.
I'm sorry, what?
Start
Start
time?
time? I didn't.
No, it usually starts at,
I think it's usually
Before
around
dark.
4:30,
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah.
I would say-
That wasn't requested.
more information to come. Let's set the date.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discussion possible action regarding dark sky bylaw.
All right, well, I took another cut at this, and I've renamed it. I've cut it down. It is, I think it accomplishes the same thing with a more straightforward fashion. This is going to be a general bylaw, as everybody's been kind of discussing. And I don't even know, I've renamed it to be artificial light pollution. I'm not even sure that we need the artificial in there, but these were kind of my latest thoughts. And I've outlined the purpose. I know we will accomplish the dark sky objectives if we meet this purpose. I've cut the definitions down to light pollution, fully shielded outdoor electric light unit, and dark sky compliant, fully shielded outdoor light fixtures. The application is pretty straightforward. It's any outdoor light, unit or fixture, installed after the effective date of this, would hope the passage of this chapter. And you'll see how short the sentences are. Okay? It applies to any new construction of real property for which a building permit is required. It also applies to the renovation of an existing building or structure for which a building permit is required. However, it only applies to the outdoor electric light units that are in the renovated part of the building. And then exemptions, temporary string lighting for 45 days, as long as it doesn't defeat the purpose, and that the select board can deviate from the requirements of this where there is a lawful need for safety, etc. I've also put in what I thought was a pretty short and sweet complaint process so that any person who lives can, that should be may submit a written, signed complaint to the attention of the select board. Images are requested. No written, no signed complaint, no anonymous complaints. The select board would hold a hearing. Parties would be invited. If they can't make it, they could send a representative or submit written comments. Following the hearing, the board will make a decision. Basically 3 things. There's no evidence to support a violation. There is a violation. And then if that's the case, what's the remedy going to be? And then enforcement. The board is the enforcing person, and I pulled the fines and fees off of the existing structure in the bylaw. So I've kind of shrunk this substantially, tried to make it as straightforward as possible, but it's a draft, so I expect it to go another round or 2.
The only thing I saw that I would like to change is in exemptions on temporary string lighting, where it says for no more than a total of 45 days in any calendar year. That portion of the sentence I would like to remove.
So let them go as long as they want.
Well, some people would do that almost for their Christmas lighting from Thanksgiving till after New Year's, and then they might have something for Halloween or something for Easter. So it would be an accumulative. Some people like to decorate for every holiday.
Okay,
And
okay.
that one short piece is the only thing I saw that I would
Okay,
change.
well, I know you just got this, so I know you need more time. The other thing, I took the work that was done by the planning board with all of the examples of acceptable and unacceptable lighting fixtures, which I think is excellent. This is something that will go down to the building inspector. Okay, so that if somebody comes in for a building permit and if this were passed, this shoe fit, here's the examples for it. Okay.
I personally would like to see us get rid of the whole process except for if there's a complaint because somebody's light is shining in someone else's window, then the Board of Selectmen has the authority to address it. I'm not crazy about what lighting fixtures you can use and when, if you do a remodel, you've got to change your outside lighting, and I would be very happy with just the complaint process. That's kind of what I was thinking when I said shorten it up, let's just address the elephant in the room, which is people who complain to us about light shining in their homes, and we have nothing to allow us to address that issue when neighbors can't resolve
I personally
it.
can't support that because what that allows.
It's just
to
my
happen-
viewpoint.
No, I know. What that allows to happen is anybody can install any light fixture, and we're not addressing the issue of light pollution. And I do have some, I know Bob, we know your opinion on duck skies, but I do feel that part of what brings people to the Berkshires and part of what we enjoy is being able to look up at the sky. I think if you're going to buy a light fixture, you might as well buy one that is fully shielded. But why don't you mark up what you want, Nadine, okay? And we'll bring this back again. I did not expect it to receive its final hearing. I just wanted to show you that I've tried.
And I just wanted to share with you what I was thinking when I said shrink it up.
Yes.
I don't think I was clear as to what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
I hope you have to agree that it is shorter.
Oh, absolutely.
We are making some progress.
Yes, absolutely.
And my position is if you have to put in a fixture, it's not hard to use. Most fixtures these days are compliant, they are fully shaded. I don't know if it's because other communities have dark sky laws.
I don't
But most
disagree.
manufacturers are making the shielded type now rather than the.
I don't disagree, I just think that we don't necessarily need the regulation in the bylaw, but
So this will be continued?
we certainly will.
To be
Everybody will
continued.
mark theirs up and maybe, sometime in October we can pick it up again? Okay.
Any comments from the audience on,
I should give you a copy, you can have my copy.
sorry?
Sari Hoy, 60 Main Street. Yes, I think you simplified the bylaw that we submitted to you, but it still includes most of the things that we were looking to include. Obviously, the planning board hasn't seen it at this point, but my only comment actually I had a question now that you brought that up, where it says defeat the purpose of this chapter. You mean going back to the purpose being establish a process, resolve complaints of outdoor lighting impacting the use and enjoyment of individual property.
Yes.
I just thought that was maybe, because what we purposely put in was the one candle light brightness at a certain distance, because it's not all about lights shining, a specific light like a spotlight. Sometimes it is a lot of lights, like a lot of string lights, or accumulating and creating a very bright light. And so I think it's actually a very simple way to measure it. There's a reader that can measure candles, and it's inexpensive and quite simple to use. And so other than having a little more specific guideline on what's okay and what's not, I think it's fine. I just think that it's a little vague, that impacting the use and enjoyment of individual properties, and how do you measure that?
How else would you specify that?
Well, in our original one, we had the very last. Hang on, let me just find it. I had it.
I was trying myself to walk a line of not getting into too much, because I don't want to put the building inspector in a situation when he now has to go out and inspect
At nighttime.
light. We have a number of other things that have to be
I think it's in our. It says to measure light pollution. The light levels at the property line should not exceed 0.1 foot candles adjacent to a commercial property and 0.05 foot candles at a residential property.
That to me is
Too much.
too much. I mean,
It's just, feel like that, that's my point. I just think it needs something more concrete about what is acceptable in the level of light.
to me, I'm usually not someone who prefers to have things subjective, but I think if a person does not enjoy their property, then they have the right to come forward. And then there would, as it is in this draft, there would be the hearing to determine whether there is. Some people are very light sensitive. We have had issues with people who have had lights, security lights, animal, motion lights, and they've had to install curtains. They've had to move into other parts of their house. That's kind of what I was looking at being the crux of this.
Right.
I think it would be left up, the way it's written in this draft, it would be left up to the select board to make the
Yes.
determination.
Yes, it's not a zoning issue.
Would be subjective where it wouldn't be.
Right.
I understand with yours, it is a scientific measure of the light. I'm just not sure if that measurement is the correct measurement, because I've never gone around testing to see what a
Fair.
0.05 looks like.
My only concern about the complaint process is I know that there are a number of people that are not comfortable sitting in this room with you, with the people that might be perpetrating the problem and having that discussion.
Yeah, and in that case, I would say, if there are any complaints, then we'll know real soon where the planning board falls on this, the select board falls on this. And any general bylaw, as well as any zoning bylaw, can be amended. It's a simple process
Right.
to amend, and the general bylaws are 50% versus a 2/3 majority is with the
Right, exactly.
zoning bylaws. So,
No, we want it as a general bylaw for a number of reasons. That was just my
thank you for your
comments.
input.
Thank
This,
you.
this will,
Thank you.
this will continue. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing not, we will move on to discussion, possible action regarding food truck regulations.
I honestly did not get a chance to look at this at all today. I did get to the dark skies, but I did not get to the food truck. So if we could just table it till I have a chance to really
Yeah,
look
I
at it
just
again, I'm
wanted to
sorry.
just Very quick, Rhonda brought up the idea that this should be an application like for any license.
Yep,
And so what I went through and did is try to make that. This would, of course, be subject to Board of Health and other issues, approvals, but on the back, I think it's a matter of do we have what we need? And I just wanted to make it as simple as possible.
appreciate that.
So this replaces this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that was my
Yeah,
only
yeah.
question.
You saw me tearing all that stuff up when I was going through my final package.
I'll get a chance later this week to go over it. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't have time
Yeah,
today.
we'll take this up at our meetings in October, but I just wanted to give you something to move the process along and consider it.
Okay, so we will move on to discussion, possible action, response to Lieutenant Governor Driscoll regarding state programs.
So this is another letter I drafted. We just got, this is a really fast turnaround. The Lieutenant Governor just wrote us last week asking for input on what that administration might be able to do to help various towns. She's going to be doing some sort of listening tour in the fall, but this is obviously, it's going to the Collins Center. It looks like they've hired them to collect all this. So I took things that came to my mind, and the first one, of course, Rhonda's had a chance to really go over and clean it up, and that's Chapter 90. And the second one was the one that we constantly talk about, a streamlined, standardized approach to bridge and culvert replacement, so that it's not,
It could be done quicker and
billions of
cheaper.
dollars in engineering, and then you get into the queue. Monterey a couple of years ago used a pre-engineered bridge and plucked that thing down and saved incredible amounts of time and years and money just doing it. I also picked up the idea of developing training programs for potential municipal employees or current employees who are looking to change jobs. Nobody's highlighting this at the state level. There's very little cooperation that I've seen so far going on with colleges like BCC. And then the affordable housing designs. Why do we all have to make our own affordable housing? Give us some cookie cutters complete with the blueprints and the ready to build. They can do this for all 351 that meet the current minimum standards. And then also the community compact program, which we have used a lot. I can't see anything at this time that we would be interested in. And I've looked at the latest one, so I'd like to have them have some ability for us to request something that's outside of their set standards. So I just put, 5 together to get a letter in there. Rhonda's had a chance to review this and always edit it as she has wished, and we can change this anyway. It's due the 10th, it's due 27th, 28th?
20th.
20th, so it's
couple days away.
2 days. So
I'll make a motion, we approve and send the letter.
I will second that. Again, very well written, and thank you for the work you do writing these letters. Okay, board items. Oh, did we need to vote on that one? Any further discussion? Seeing none, vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Got ahead of myself. Okay, board member items.
I just wanted to bring to the public's attention that there will be a public meeting sponsored by the Berkshire Eagle on October 4th at the Mahawi Theater to discuss the potential merger of the two school districts. It is a free event, but you do have to register online at mahawi.org in order to reserve a seat. They want to know how many people are coming. I did fill mine out today. They do ask for a charitable donation. You don't have to in order to go through the process, but they do want to know who's coming. So if you are interested, I suggest you get online to mahawi.org and get a seat reserved.
Now, my understanding, Nadine, is that this is going to be run by the editorial board.
Correct.
And that you can submit questions.
You can.
So that's also in that same thing.
Yeah, there's actually an article in the Eagle, I think it was recently, Friday or Saturday, but you can go to the Eagle online and Google the merger, and the whole article comes up and it tells you how to submit your questions and.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Renee?
So speaking of mergers, I would like to let everyone know that there's going to be a community conversation at Southern Berkshire Regional School District regarding the draft regional agreement and the warrant on Wednesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. in the TAC Pack. As far as I know, I don't know what will happen at the October 4th meeting, but this will be a meeting devoted strictly to what you're going to vote on, which is the draft regional agreement. It'll be finalized by that point. The special legislation, which will be finalized by that point, and what's in that agreement. So I encourage you to come to that meeting on the 27th at 7 p.m. at Southern Berkshire Regional School District. That's it for me.
In the meantime, you can go to 8towns.org to get the most current regional agreement. There will be an updated version at our next meeting, but that's where you can go to get the regional agreement to actually see what's in it.
Special legislation been posted?
I don't have the answer to that question.
I didn't see it when I was on there this weekend, so.
I don't have the answer.
Could I ask a question? Where are we with our council reviewing the proposed draft
They have
of the
it.
warrant? And when do we need to, have we already approved the meeting for October 23rd? So that's all in motion. We don't have to do anything on it.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I have is I'd like to thank all the volunteers that were at the Sheffield Fair. I thought it was a great day. I thought the kids had fun. The rain held off till the end, but boy, did it clear everything out fast. Once that came, things ended in a short hurry, but it was a good time. I think everybody enjoyed themselves, and I'd love to see this continue.
Well, as a side note, I have never seen so many children in my life outside of a school building. And the kids were like, they just kept coming in waves. And it was so, Dina was there, I mean, it was so wonderful to see all of these up and coming citizens from wherever they were. And there were a lot of young families, which was just so incredible. And just as a plug, because the Sheffield Fair is not associated with the town of Sheffield, it's wholly run by volunteers under the Sheffield Association. We need more volunteers. We could have used 6 face painters. Instead, we had there were so many children, and our goal next year is to expand more children's activities. It just made your heart feel so good.
It was a nice day.
Just a wonderful event.
And
Yes.
everybody
Thank you, Bob.
that was involved deserves a great round of appreciation.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
town administrator items.
No, I don't have anything.
She doesn't have anything today. Public comments. Pat?
I'm gonna have a comment that would be 261 East Main Street. I'd like a copy of the food truck proposal and of the, what's the other, the Vista, the mountain,
Oh, the Scenic Mountain.
Scenic Mountain, right, that's
send
coming
you-
before the
I'll send
Board of
that
Health, and I don't
one.
have any idea
I'll send it to you.
what it is. Great, good, thank you.
Jim?
Yes, Jim Martin. I guess you're familiar with my complaint about the, I'll call it the high-rise septic system in front of, and I noticed that you had it on your agenda. Can you tell me anything?
Basically, it is what it is. It would be very expensive to try to remedy it and bring the elevation of it down. Checked with a couple of contractors, and just because of the soils that are in that area, it's just that and the codes. I mean, back in the day, you wouldn't have the codes, but if everybody at the Legion, you know, if there was a function and there was 125 people and they all stood in line to go to the bathroom, and all the senior centers all stood in line to go to the bathroom at the same time, you know, they built it so it would accept that kind of flow, and that's the rules, and unfortunately, this is what we're probably gonna live with.
I don't see where that's ever gonna happen. In this small town, both buildings be at capacity at the
Well,
same time.
no, and neither
So,
would I, but
that's like, your system should be when you have 25, 30 people there for Thanksgiving, should be designed for those people. So, anyway, it's a sad situation. If you look at there's a monument up there, there's over 60 deceased members, and they deserve to be honored, not dishonored.
well, I don't think the intention ever was to
Well, it's not a
dishonor.
question of attention. It is what it is. And I will contend to you that this is the only town in this country that is trashed its American Legion in that fashion with a septic system like that right in front of the front door.
I know-
And it's the only town in this country that has trashed or absolutely ruined a Civil War historic site with a stupid septic system. To me, it's the cost of the building. It's just like any other fault of a darn building, public building, whatever, it should be corrected. And if you work with our legislators, which we have good legislators, if you have a serious conversation, I think this can be resolved. But for some reason, the board seemed to have a fear of it. Now, these people serve
Feel
us.
free to take it on, Jim.
Pardon?
Feel free to take the job.
I have done that trick. You are, the people have the power. They don't ignore me. I don't have that weight. So it's right there, there's three people right there. If you were serious about it and had a serious conversation with them, I think they respect the American Legion. They honor the American
Jim, I
Legion.
have to say, we all expect, all three of us here at this table respect the American.
Well, you disrespect it because you're not doing anything about it. You're sweeping it under the rug, and looking, dancing around for
Before I
excuses.
say something bad.
This is a conversation that's going to continue to be back and forth. The board has made its statement. I don't know why the American Legion building itself was built on that sacred ground. It was the old Sheffield parade ground. The building was built, and then when the senior center was added, because I was involved in that, I was on the board, I know Rhonda was the assistant, I think. Everybody knew what was going on. There had to be, septic systems are engineered for capacity. You don't get to choose how many people you're going to. It was all done by the book. This board has made its statement. I resent the statement that I dishonor the American Legion by fulfilling that they gave the land or sold the land under certain conditions to the senior center, and that a joint septic system was put in, I think 10 years, 12 years ago. So you have your opinion, the board has made its statement. I don't know that it does any good for us to sit back here and argue. You know, I, for one, thank you for your comments. They've been heard, but this board, until this board changes, I don't believe there's going to, I know there will be no action taken.
Okay, I got your
I just want to
message.
give you my opinion, so you don't come every week and bring this up. I mean, you're free to, but that's my opinion. and I do not believe that I disrespect the American Legion, and that's what it takes to disrespect the American Legion. When it was done, everybody knew about it, they sold the property, so...
I was told by a good source that the public wasn't informed that we're going to have that kind of a septic system in front of there. It was all of a sudden a surprise, and the public was not properly informed of it in advance. I was told that by that the board knew, but they didn't inform the public, so that's from a good source. So I don't like that. Let's switch gears here. I got another one. Just the other day I came down Berkshire School and Berkshire School Road, and I was admiring the sidewalk. I thought, it's a credit to this town. I like to see things that are credit to this town. I'm not coming down here just to make waves with the board. I mean, I don't like the trajectory that the governance of the town has been going over the last number of years. Things have happened, our character, and we don't seem to have proper standards. That thing never should have been there. With standards and pride, it never would have been there. But anyway,
Still talking about the septic system?
I am, but let me go back to my sidewalk. Admiring the sidewalk. Like I say, I enjoyed driving down through, we have a nice sidewalk from Mount Everett to town, Smith sidewalk. Now I got a letter that says that we're going to have a sidewalk up to the Legion. But
To the Dollar General
So
store.
the dollar.
Yeah, to the Dollar General, okay. So apparently this is going to be asphalt. Now, I don't know, who made that decision? I'm not so much pro.
DOT is in charge of that. They make the decisions.
Well, do the people on Sheffield Plain have any voice?
It's DOT land. They have the right of way.
Is there land out there too?
Not on Berkshire School, on Route 7. DOT has an easement.
Okay, that's
on Route
DOT, not 7.
We have worked with them as a board to get the concrete sidewalks and the sidewalks that were installed down to Hubbard Bridge. You could now go to Galatas, and it's now been, 2 years, Rhonda, 3 years?
Yes.
You can go from Galatas and you can walk to the edge of the Hubbard Brook Bridge.
Yeah.
We asked them at the same time that we really wanted the sidewalks extended down to Cook Road because the town had plans on its own road to eventually put in a sidewalk that would hook with the senior center, which would allow a walking path from the senior center all the way out to the school. Now, Mass DOT, since they are paying for this, they have to go back and they have to engineer it, which they did. They have to go back and make the determination of what materials they are going to use. And most people know that along that whole side of this road, and actually along the other side, there were asphalt sidewalks. You can still see them. If you dig down, you can still see them. So it's going to go up to and past the American Legion. It's going to cross the street at that point, so it's across from the American Legion. They're going to put in a new crosswalk. How they got to the Dollar General, I'm not sure. I think it was just they did engineering studies, they did traffic studies, where are people going? It's going to cross over with a brand new crosswalk with flashing blinkers like we have here in town, and it will now run on the other side of the road up to the Dollar General.
It's crossing Route 7?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
At Cook Road. Well, you can't get to Dollar General and the Frog and the bank without crossing.
It's a road, yeah.
So the feeling is that it's designed to be safe. People have said that they would like to be walking in town, and Mass DOT is going to do it. Just like Mass DOT put sidewalks down in Ashley Falls. We have no historic district here in the sense of a commission, but people can now walk to the Dollar General. They don't either have to take their car, or they don't have to worry about walking in the street.
Are they cement in Ashley Falls?
I'm sorry?
Are they cement?
Part of it's cement, part of it's blacktop.
I'm just here,
I don't know.
I want
It's
what's
hot-
best for the town.
It's not part
If-
of the art, it's hot mix asphalt. That is the material they're putting in. That's their choice of the material.
I mean, if it's, whatever's best for the town, I'm all for, but I expect you to stand up for it.
So what are we supposed to be standing up for on this one?
Well, if the people on the plane thought that they preferred cement, I would hope that you stand up for them. You don't have to stand up for me.
Well, it's a state decision, and I'm afraid I'm probably not gonna get too far by telling the state what,
Well, we have legislators that bridge from there to here.
I'm sorry, I'm having a difficult time understanding what the issue is with Mass DOT coming in and putting sidewalks to take people in this town to certain destinations where they can walk. And if Mass DOT wants to do it with hot mix asphalt, which means it'll be blacktop. I'm just having a problem understanding what the real issue here is.
Well, the real issue, I'd like to see the people on the plane have a choice. If they like cement better, they should speak.
Nobody has come in and said anything.
Pardon?
Nobody has come in and said anything.
Well, they weren't asked.
Everyone has received a letter from the town telling them of this project. All the abutters who need to move certain items like fences that are in DOT's right of way, everyone has received a letter. If they have to move things, they have been told they're going to have to move them. I think, Rhonda, it went to the other side of the road too. So everybody within that whole distance, has there been any comments to Town Hall on
A
this?
couple people have come in and picked up copies of the plans, but no opposition.
thank you, Jim. I think Pat was next.
Yeah, I just wanted to make, Pat Levine, 261 East Main Street. Wanted to say, could we maybe do some landscaping on that mound or in front of it or something that might soften the look of it and make it?
You have to be very careful
Interesting.
messing with septic systems.
Yep, no, I agree, but
I'm
it
finished
could
with
maybe
the septic system.
partially address
I'm
the.
finished with the septic system.
Thank you. Sorry.
My concern, I don't have a concern about sidewalks. I have a concern about crossing Route 7 there. I mean, we see trouble and I know this is out of your realm, it's DOT, you don't really have much say or any say on that, but we've seen trouble on our sidewalks in town where the state speed limit is 35. At that point, it's faster. And I just think it's really, really dangerous and it is going to be a problem.
We have talked about that issue with Mass DOT. I mean, this issue has been discussed for several meetings now. I know that I've been in contact with the engineer quite a bit. I know that they moved it to the other side because if you're driving on both sides, you have a better view of a person and the light if it is past Cook Road.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to have to monitor it. And I'm hoping that, in fact, I won't hope, I'll talk to them about putting appropriate signage like a crosswalk ahead or something. And I know, we've done everything we can here in town. And if people want to go through a flashing yellow light, I wish our policemen would stop them and ticket them.
They've been doing a great job, actually.
And they have been doing more of
Yes.
that. But we have some very inconsiderate drivers, I'm hoping they're not local, but I've seen people go passing through a yellow flashing light.
I use the
with
yellow
people,
flashing.
And I myself have been in the crosswalk and
Yep.
I get my pointy finger.
Right.
Yeah, and
I have too, and that's why I have, you know where I live, I'm right there on
Yes.
that crosswalk, I use that crosswalk, I'm terrified when people use that crosswalk, and I am equally terrified to hear that there's a crosswalk going where you're saying it's going.
I personally think we all have to be extremely aware. I do hope that it has brought some level of safety than what it was before.
Better than it was,
Just
by
got
far.
to go, and if you and I knew Jillian extremely well, and I still mourn her loss. I'm hoping that it has made things better.
It has, but people still run it.
We just keep trying to make things better.
Any other public comments?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.